All right. Um, it's been a little while, a little bit more than a month. Um, and some things have happened. Um, mainly, well, I guess I'll start with other things that happened first. Finished my second semester of graduate school. Um, you know, that went pretty well. Um, no problems there. Still do have the problem of, trying to secure a internship or co-op or something of the like for the um, fall semester, because that's sort of the big reason why I went back to school, was to secure some sort of connections um, within the field that I'm studying, but that hasn't happened yet. Um, I guess the other thing that has happened was um, I got into a pretty bad car accident. Um, this happened over Memorial Day weekend, and I was driving. It was late at night. It was in a place, I was going out there for the weekend to this place that a bunch of my high school friends were, we had gotten an Airbnb for Memorial Day weekend that we were all going out there for. Um, and it was about 11:15 at night, and I was driving along, and it's a two-lane sort of state highway. I'm in the right lane, car is in the left lane. We're about even with each other, and a car, uh, the road is sort of curving to the left, and a car comes in the opposite direction, driving straight towards us. This was like a state highway, so we were going at like 60 miles an hour. Um, and I saw the oncoming car before I think the car in the left lane did. So I immediately like hit the brakes, laid on my horn. Um, but the car in the left lane did not see it in time, and they got into a head-on collision. And the from that impact, one of the cars, I don't remember which one, sort of rebounded and bounced into me. Um, Airbags went off. Uh, my car was not totaled, but it had some pretty major damage to the point where I couldn't drive it. But the other the two cars that got into a head-on, um, they were both totaled, and there was only one person in each car, and they were both taken to the hospital. Um, the last I heard, when I went to the police station, like on Monday, on Memorial Day, to sort of ask about them and figure out what should be done, was that they were both still unconscious. Um, my best guess is that the car that was driving in the opposite direction um, probably turned that way at an intersection, because the road that we were on, it was two lanes going each way, but it was a divided highway, with guardrails on both sides. Um, and I guess he must have like turned left at an intersection, thought that the opposite direction was one lane going each way, so that's why he was in what he would consider like the right side, so my left. Um, yeah, it's strange because I thought I would feel more of an impact. And obviously, when it happened, it was like high anxiety, like, oh shit, I don't know what the fuck just happened. Um, but afterwards, it was very, I didn't really feel much. Um, I definitely felt, some amount of fear when I eventually picked up my rental to drive back home, because that's like the first time back on the road since that happened. But I always assumed that you get into a near-death experience and your outlook on life changes. I don't know if that has happened. If it has, I have not realized it. Um, but I don't know, maybe that has just, maybe making this video or talking about it is that sort of subtle change that I feel like I need to talk about it because I have thought about death, not recently, but sort of every so often, what it means. Um, Look at me, I'm like fucking philosophizing on the nature of death. Fucking, I'm insane. But I sometimes get into this sort of loop or this like rabbit hole of thinking too much about it. Not in terms of like, wanting to be dead because, that's something different. But it's like what happens when we die? Obviously that's like a big question. And like out of all the scenarios that I can think of about what happens, which one is the most comforting? Because anytime I think about some possible scenario that happens after we die, I always find them not comforting at all in the certain mindset that I have as someone who is alive. Because, you think about, okay, if we die, then one option is that we just stop existing. And that's hard to comprehend as someone who is present, uh, who has only known existence. Um, Another is like, okay, when we die, we go to heaven and we're there for all eternity. And then that also is uncomfortable because, eternity is unfathomable. It is so like it's you can't really wrap your head around it. So it's like for some reason, um, having a point where you stop existing and nothing else after that, but also the fact that you might just continue on forever. Those are both uncomfortable ideas. Um, I guess the one that gives me the most comfort is the idea of like reincarnation, um, where like, you keep on existing, but you aren't existing forever. Like you're sort of always resetting. And that is sort of honestly the probably one of the more comforting um, ideas for what happens after death, because you don't have to it, like forever is not extending out toward infinity. Um, Sort of not perceptive to it because you're being constantly reincarnated and reset. Um, One other idea that I thought would be interesting uh, is this sort of like semi reincarnation type deal where it's almost like loading a save state on a video game. So, like when you die, you sort of are this, you know, you still exist after you die, but you have the ability to sort of go back, like be reincarnated as either yourself or someone new, and start life again. And then when you die again, you sort of come back to this like loading zone where you have all these memories of all the past lives that you've lived, but you have the choice of, starting a new life, reliving the life you just had or something of that nature. So it's not like you are constantly forgetting, but also don't have to constantly deal with the nature of eternity. Um, I understand that this is like fucking nonsense. That it's like, why are you thinking about this? Why are you thinking about what happens after? Um, and that I don't think about this all the time, but I've thought about it enough that I've formed these ideas um, that make me sound like a fucking crazy person. Um, but like I said, I go down these rabbit holes, um, and it's been that way since I was like a child. Where I remember I had watched this like cartoon. I think it might have been like fucking Ed, Ed and Eddie or something, where it was either that or like maybe like Bill and Mandy's. What the fuck is that show called? Bill and Mandy something. Um, where they had like the Jamaican Grim Reaper. Um, where one of the episodes is like they, I think like their dog dies or the cat dies or something, and they try and bring it back to life, but in doing so, they bring back like everyone who has ever died in the town back to life. And I was a kid. I was maybe like, I don't know. I was definitely like under 10 because I remember like the room I was in because I remember the bedroom because it was in my old bunk bed that I had with my brother. Um, I remember laying in bed and just thinking about death and like how nothing about death gave me comfort in terms of ending, in terms of not existing or perhaps existing for forever uh, after you die. Um, but that is that's sort of been, I don't know. I just felt like I wanted to explain just the way that I think about these things. And I guess death has been more on my mind mainly because, I had that experience over Memorial Day. And I hope that the two people who got into the head-on collision are, doing okay. I haven't heard back from the cops about anything about that then. And I've been looking up like news articles to see if there's been any updates, for around the area, and I haven't seen anything. Um, but also, I know in one of my other videos, I talked about how I have been dealing with some other chronic health problems. Though they are still going on, and it is frustrating. And it is annoying because I've done a couple tests now, and it's still not clear as to what is wrong. There are like possibilities, um, but nothing concrete. And I'm very worried that the problems that I have are not easily fixable because there's nothing really to point to. Um, which is um, terrifying because I don't want to feel like this. I don't want to feel um, the way that I've been feeling for the past almost a year now. Right now I'm feeling okay, but it's not like a constant thing, which I am, grateful for, but it is present enough that it is very disrupting. And I mean, I'm also spending a lot of fucking money on it, feeling like I'm getting nowhere. Um, So that's been another sort of point of stress. Um, I've talked to my parents about it, obviously. My mom has the belief, or like had the belief, you know, before I had these tests that like it is something that you will grow out of. I mean, shit, I'm fucking 25. I thought I was done growing. Um, it's something that you'll grow out of, and that something that will sort of fade as you get more accustomed to adult life. And to say that I am not accustomed to adult life at 25 years old is an understatement. Um, very Life is full of anxieties, but I feel like I'm not doing a good job of handling them. Um, Now, with the sort of recent tests that I've had, she's like, okay, it might be this thing, but it's it's not definitive. And the I like when things are definitive. I like when I know what is going on. Um, and I'm just very fearful of the future. Fearful that, going back to the sort of internship thing, that if I don't get an internship, I will finish up my last year of my master's degree, and then I will have nothing except for the degree. Um, but I will have no contacts. I'll have no job, ways to get a job, and then I'll just go back to living with my parents, and I'm going to be fucking 30 living with my parents, before I know it. Living with them in, out, in rural where they live. Um, Feeling like I have like two siblings, both younger, feeling like they are, you know, getting into adult life more. They're sort of acclimating to it better than I am. Um, it's very distressing. Life is very distressing at the moment. Um, Socially as well. Socially, it's been tough because the physical health problems have then brought on more mental health problems, and that's just like made it very, and they seem to be amplified when I'm with people, um, and I'm paying another fucking doctor for that. It's not great, you know. It's very hard to see a, it's very hard to put a positive spin on this. I mean, I guess positive things are that I don't feel that way all the time. Like I said, right now is good, but earlier today I was not feeling well. Um, I've got a family trip next week. Hopefully, I feel okay for that and I'll be able to enjoy it. Um, but that's sort of just what I've been dealing with. I guess one last thing in terms of like the whole health side of things and thinking about death. There's a point in time, like last month, basically, where it was before I had had these tests done, and I was going through like again what outcome of these tests would make me feel the most comfortable. Obviously, number one would be like something definitive. We found out what it is. We can give you some pill or whatever the fuck, or some treatment plan that is defined, and you'll be like, there's a good success rate. Um, the other thing that was actually kind of giving me comfort was like, what if I just had cancer? And you might think, well, that is not comforting, having cancer. And I guess in my mind, yeah, obviously that's not a good thing to have. But in my mind, I'm looking at, and I sometimes watch like people on YouTube that have been diagnosed with cancer or are going through their like cancer journey and them like talking about it. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, if I'm diagnosed with cancer, you are suddenly immediately in this position where you have so many people and all these resources being poured into you. Like you are like the focus of so many people's efforts. Like you immediately, like as soon as you get diagnosed with cancer, you get, oncologists and nurses and you get all these people coming out of like the woodwork, like uh, extended family and like friends you haven't heard from. All of them are there to like give you their like best wishes, and you have all of this support. And it's just that feeling of being supported is sort of what I crave. Um, because it feels very, I feel, I'm not going to say unsupported right now, but I would like that like hyper, the hyperactive nature of all this support of cancer, which is the worst way to think about it. Because like you get cancer, your life is like immediately altered. Even if you get like a sort of treatable cancer like lymphoma, um, which is one of the more treatable cancers, you're still like things are like fucked up with your life, like because chemo, you do chemo and then that has the possibility of you getting, even if that eradicates the initial cancer, you have a higher increased likelihood of um, getting secondary cancers, things like that. So it's like the benefits of having all this support does not outweigh all the negatives of having cancer. Um, I sound like a fucking crazy person talking about this, and I probably am. But I mean, I've talked about it with a couple people, this idea, and some of them are like, okay, that's kind of strange, and then some of them are like, that actually makes sense because it's such an immediate outpouring of love and support from anyone and everyone that you've ever known, basically. Um, I don't know how to end this video. This is sort of just like me rambling again, just sort of just the nature of this channel. Um, but I don't know. I try and have other video topics that are like more uplifting. But I don't have a script for these, obviously, as it is sort of apparent. I just sort of get on here. I got a loose idea of what I want to talk about. I just go. Um, Sometimes I'll like re-record stuff. Um, but this one I sat down. This is like the first sort of run of this. Um, but I don't know. I'll probably have other videos that are more interesting or um, positive in nature. But that's it for this video. So yeah.